welcome back to my channel. This video aims to remind us of the divine feminine, and we're gonna be talking about the possibility that the creative force behind the universe is actually feminine in nature. And if this is the case, how does this affect us? I mentioned in the previous video that before the patriarchal society that we live in, there used to be a matriarchal society that was led by women. And I think it's time to heal and reintegrate this energy into our physical existence. This video is meant to be a wake-up call for the divine feminine that exists within each and every single one of us, whether you're a man or a woman. And I'm gonna make a quick reference to the video that I have on feminine and masculine energy, which if you haven't seen, I do highly recommend that you see that one first, just so we all have a clear idea of what feminine energy actually means, which is not limited by your physical appearance, but it is rather a way through which energy is expressed. So I'm gonna start by giving a little bit of a historical context, even though I do not want to focus mainly on ancient civilizations themselves, but rather on the symbology of the beliefs that they had and what do those mean to us. And even if you don't believe in this story, I still invite you to open yourself up to the message that I'm trying to convey, because I truly believe there's a goddess within each of us waiting to be brought to life. And this also applies on a masculine level. Although men in our society are raised with the idea that they have to be these strong soldiers, and they grow up believing that it is not okay for them to express their feelings because that's not their nature, which cannot be more wrong. So without further ado, let's pop right into the video. We live in a world where masculine energy seems to be dominating everything, or almost everything. And not just in the sense that the world seems to be ruled by men, but you can also see this on a business level, social level, political, religious, even lexical level. When you're addressing a group of people, for example, you're also using the masculine form of the word. But this is also felt on a deeper level, symbolic and energetic. We are a logical, rational society that believes only what can be demonstrated physically. And we are a society that goes straight from point A to point B, leaving very little room for creativity, emotion, fluidity, and for the loving nurture so specific to the feminine energy. But this has not always been the case. The role of women in past civilizations was way more important than we realize. And while the Bible does not give much information in this regard, ancient texts that describe creation, whether they're Sumerian, Babylonian, or even Gnostic, they all have one thing in common. They all mention a mother goddess as the creator of everything that exists. In Sumerian texts, for example, Enki also addressed women first and gave them knowledge, which then passed it on to the rest of the people. But this was not because they were seeing women as being weaker, but because at that time the woman was considered to possess great wisdom and influence, and her creative powers were honored. And women are literally portals that navigate unborn souls from the spirit world into the physical world. And the feminine energy is the most sacred and powerful creative force, and is the only one capable of such creation. This can also be observed by the fact that in their culture, the creator of the universe is also described as being feminine in nature, Namu. which it is said to be later incarnated into Tiamat, which is the Babylonian personification of Namu, whose name also means Lady of Life. And what catches my eye is that the traditions and cultures of these civilizations seem to be supporting the same concept relating to the creation process. And I think it's a pretty interesting synchronicity. Later on, the transition from matriarchy to patriarchy seems to have happened as Christianity gained influence. And the strongest evidence in this regard are texts found in the Nag Hammadi library in Egypt. And the reason they are so controversial is because they contain texts that have not been seen since the church has censored and removed them from the original Bible in the 4th century. These texts are Gnostic in nature, and they offer a slightly different perspective in regards to creation, divine beings, and reincarnation, and so many more. But what does Gnostic actually mean? The word comes from Greek and means to have knowledge, and it's a group that has its origins in the years 30 to 400 AD. And it's a group that, unlike traditional Christian beliefs, was much more focused on spiritual knowledge and reports all types of encounters with beings of a divine nature. And as I said before, they have the most complete documentation of the Old Testament before it was manipulated. These Gnostic texts speak of a goddess named Sophia, who is considered a consciousness, an archetype rather, and is considered to be the creative energy of the universe. And the word Sophia also comes from Greek and means wisdom. And basically, the Gnostics understood life as being a consciousness in a very similar way to the concept of fractal energy offered by quantum physics. And according to their writings, this consciousness seems to have divided herself into multiple pieces so she can experiment herself subjectively. And this consciousness would later create galaxies, planets, and so forth. It's the fluidity of this reality that for the Gnostics represented Sophia. And it is also said that Sophia will eventually return to the Logos, which in philosophy means to the cosmic order in relation to divinity. And this return is explained as being an explosion of energy that seems to change the direction in which the universe expands, which sounds very similar to the concept of the great solar flash, which is said to be an explosion in the energy field of the sun that resets the energy in the entire universe. And instead, contradicting all the ancient texts regarding creation, in which the woman was considered wise, the Christian book of Genesis describes the woman as being an untrustworthy temptress and offers the idea that the woman is guilty for the way the rest of existence unfolded, for she first fell into sin and then tempted Adam. And from this point on, I think we all know the way things have unfolded. The woman was and still is considered inferior to the man by many traditions. And the woman has had to fight for her rights into society, for her rights of attending school, of voting, and of being equal to men. And I think we have all heard at least once the words, "the woman's place is in the kitchen," or "what would a woman do in such a place?" And this shift from matriarchy to patriarchy was not intended to shift just the roles of people in society, but sought to censor and manipulate the way we experience reality and the way in which society develops. If you remember the video I made about dimensions, when it was comparing the third dimension to the fifth dimension, where I was explaining how in the third dimension our abilities are limited by what we can experience physically due to the very logical characteristic of the masculine energy. In this way, any contact with any kind of spiritual encounter would be limited because it requires receptivity, and this is more a feminine energy characteristic. At the same time, the way we as humans understand creation is from the human level of consciousness, and we tend to relate concepts to already familiar ideas so we can create a visual idea of the meaning of a certain thing. But the creator is actually not a man, but it is not a woman either. It is an energy, a consciousness. And I think it's really important for us to remember this concept, but it is even more important to start embodying this energy. And I think it was not necessarily about limiting the woman in a physical sense as a human, but rather limiting the energy that she embodies. Unity, emotion, receptivity, nurture, and so on. And this feminine energy is universally found both in men and women, although men that are attentive to details and that express their emotions are rarer. They have in fact built a fortress around them as a defense mechanism. They are rare because our patriarchal society projects the idea that in order to be a man, you have to not show your sensitive side. Just as it sells the idea that if you're a woman, you must be this fragile creature that needs protection. But these are just labels that we use to fit into this patriarchal system, but they do not represent who we truly are. I'm gonna stop here for now. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe to my channel. See you on the next time. Light and love.